Learn how to build a better sign and print shop from a few crusty sign guys who've made more mistakes than they care to admit. Conversations and advice on pricing, sales, marketing, workflow, growth, and more. You're listening to the Better Sign Shop Podcast with your hosts, Peter Kourounis, Michael Riley, and Bryant Gillespie.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Sign Shop Podcast. This is part 2 in a series on the 10 Sign Shop Commandments.
Yeah, we'll call it like a mini-series. Call it like a mini-series.
2-part episode, as always, the Sign Shop Yoda. God, man, I still love that nickname, like
Thank
5
you.
years later, 4 years later.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving it to me. It's stuck.
Yeah. Do clients call you Yoda when you're on coaching calls? And
not necessarily, but I do have it as like one of the packages on my website. So when you go to Sign Shop Consulting and you go to the pricing options, it says like, meet the Sign Shop Yoda. And I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. But I don't show up in my Yoda ears anymore.
That was a one and done, yeah.
I'm kind of letting my kids play with them nowadays.
Yeah, hey, that's all right. All of your kids now. Congratulations again, by the way, on the twins and the growing family.
Thank you, my man. Thank you. Yeah.
Did you get that minivan? Did you get that minivan recommendation that I sent you?
I did get it. Did I buy it? No, I did not. I did not buy it. But I have to tell you, my wife is completely against minivans. We recently just bought a Yukon XL, a used Yukon XL.
Yep.
The third row. We put our boys in the back. The girls get their own little captain seats. And in theory, the vehicle is big enough. I say in theory because my fat ass can't get in the back to buckle my kids into the car seats.
I love it.
And I'm like, if this is the biggest truck on the market right now with a third row and a trunk, I am screwed. I am absolutely screwed because my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old sit in the back in their car seats, and I'm like, can you please buckle yourself in because Daddy can't like reach over and do that. So I'm struggling with it right now. My wife loves this truck. It
does get a little bit easier when they can buckle themselves, but like until you get to that point, it's miserable, man. I've been there. Like had we not had the minivan, it would have been a struggle. Honda Odyssey, all the way, baby. Just give up on your dignity. Tell your wife to just like, hey, we're getting a minivan. Because my wife is the same way, dude. Like she did not want to get a minivan, and she still doesn't necessarily love to drive it because she's always had cool cars, and like that's the one area where she's like, man, I want to drive a nice, cool car. And for all the things that she does, she deserves that. But there's no arguing with how amazing a minivan is.
Well, you say amazing, like. I'm actually, I didn't say I didn't look at one, so I'm not saying I didn't look at it and entertain the idea, but the technology in these things is just
oh my God. Yeah.
ridiculous. I wish I had that. Like a push button, turn the seat around, push button, like the windows and doors open. I'm like, I have to struggle with my Yukon XL. I'm like, everything's manual, everything's like a lever, you got to pull, push, whatever. And when you have your hands full, like I'm holding 2 car seats. Like this, and my kids are jumping in, and oh yeah, by the way, they got to go in first, right? Because they're in the back, and once you put the car seats in, it's like you can't squeeze through, you can't squeeze around. So I'm kind of living in that world right now, where I wish I actually did have a minivan, and my wife is in love with our truck, and I despise it. It's like a rolling tank.
You'll get there one day. You'll get there.
Yeah.
Let's jump back into this thing, man. Do we want to recap the first 5 really quickly?
Yeah, we could, sure. So this is part 2 of the 10 Sign Shop Commandments, right? So if you haven't listened to part 1 just yet, hit pause on this episode, go listen to part 1. We talked a lot about these 5 commandments, the first 5. So we'll recap them right now. Gross profit margin. Gross profit margin, okay, should equal or exceed, hopefully you're exceeding it, 60% of your net sales. Let's not go beneath that threshold, okay? 60%, let's look at that, okay? Your direct labor, let's look at your P&L here now, guys, and let's take a look at, how much you're paying your direct labor staff. If you're not sure what the direct labor staff is, go listen to episode number 1, and where we talked about it. We brought it up, and we spoke about it at length. Should not exceed 20% of your net sales. Direct labor should not exceed 20%. That's commandment number 2. Commandment number 3, your materials, your parts, your COGS should not exceed 17% of your net sales.
Okay.
Your business expenses, commandment number 4, your overhead, your business expenses, your operating expenses, bam, whatever you want to call them, okay, should not exceed 48%. That's your cap. 48% of net sales. We have to break all of that down and penny push to make sure that does not exceed 48%.
Yep.
And number 5, and we spoke a lot about number 5. I can do a whole episode on number 5, maybe a whole series of episodes on number 5. Your advertising budget should not be 0.
Should not be 0.
Should not be 0. But it does not exceed 11% of your net sales. Okay, so if you're, I had a really interesting question come up from that episode, and I'd like to start here, Brian, if that's okay. I'm not going to jump right into number 6 and the rest of them.
All right.
We had a little bit of a comment.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of a comment to make here on number 5. Okay, and I promise it won't take long. But the question is. You're saying that your advertising budget should not exceed 11% of net sales. That's true. That is what I said. But how do you know what the percentage is if you haven't realized those sales yet? Right? So think about that question for a minute. That's the comment. The comment is, I have to advertise in July to make revenue in July. True. You can also make revenue in August, September, and every other subsequent month. But let's just take a look in a month, which I think is where this comment is coming from. Is how do I know what 11% is if it hasn't been realized in that month?
We spent $1,000 on those amazing radio ads that are so effective these days, and how do I tie that back?
How do you tie it back? I think that's a very interesting comment. And while I don't want to make a very long response here, this is why advertising is important. Because you have to start at 0 somewhere, at some point. If you look at your advertising dollars and you spent $5,000, I'm just going to throw a number out there, an arbitrary number out there, and it generated $50,000 for you, you're operating at 10%, right? So you start there. And then what does the next month look like? Do you still have that $5,000 budget? Are you expected to produce another $50,000 or more? You start there and you analyze and you make changes accordingly. Your advertising budget is not a set in stone budget. I think that is what people get confused about. There's a lot of vendors out there. I mentioned a couple on our last episode. And they have monthly retainers. Like, that's just their cost. Their cost to manage it, the cost of the ad spend, you marry them together, and there's a fixed cost to this.
There's a budget. Yep.
And maybe you're not doing just one of those things. Maybe you're doing a little bit of SEO. Maybe you're doing pay-per-click. Maybe you're doing BNI. Maybe you're doing, ride the wave, whatever it is. Social sponge, whatever. You're adding all of that up and you're getting to a number. And that number needs to produce revenue. So your first 90 days is all about experimenting with the budget, experimenting with the ad spend and the money that you're spending and seeing what the results are. So if you're not doing that, you have to start there. But at a certain point, we talked about this again on episode number 1, is forecasting revenue, forecasting lead opportunities, forecasting these data points. I know that the shop owner that does $4 million knows exactly a range, a pretty tight-knit range of how many opportunities they're going to have in a month. Okay. Not every shop is like that. I mentioned last episode that one of my $4 million clients doesn't have a single advertising budget and lives off of referrals, but it's consistent. Okay. But if you don't have an advertising budget, you start one, you look at the results, and you forecast opportunities and revenue after the first 90 days. Let's just say 3 months is a good measure to see if something's working or not.
Yeah.
Some people would say that's not a long time to look at SEO. SEO is a farming and a long-term play. So I would, and once you start it, you don't really want to stop it. Okay, so SEO is a kind of a different topic. We'll
We
jump
could-
off that
yeah.
soapbox a little bit
Yeah.
there.
Don't get me started on that one.
So the comment was very interesting. Just how do you know what 11% is? And I thought, yeah, well, that is true. How would you know if you've never done it before? But you got to start somewhere. So create a budget. Say I'm going to spend this month X amount of dollars, and then we're going to see how much lead opportunity and revenue it drives, and then go from there. But the shop owners that are doing this are looking at that pretty consistently and saying, I'm on target. I'm underneath that 11%.
Yeah.
Or not.
All right. Number 6.
Sign shop commandment number 6. Earlier in number 2, we talked about direct labor. Now we're talking about total payroll. Should not exceed 30% of net sales. Whew. That's a tough one. That's a hard one for most people. Okay. I'm going to take a beat and talk a little bit about this. I feel like
Please
I owe
do.
it. I feel like I owe it to the audience to
I usually-
explain this one.
I usually see this one expressed in a different way of like revenue per employee, or sales per employee.
There's a lot of formulas out there, Bryant. There's a lot of
Yep.
formulas out there. Revenue per employee is an EOS metric, okay, that was created out of the book of Traction, and I don't disagree with that at all. I fully support that metric. But here's what's very interesting about that metric. That metric does not show up on a profit and loss statement.
It does
Okay.
not.
It does not. It does not. There's no chart of account that says revenue per employee. No.
Yep.
So when you look at your total payroll, okay, what is total payroll? You might have subcontractors working for you. You might have W-2 employees working for you. People that are commission only. People that require workers' comp. People that require payroll taxes to be taken out if you're in one of those glorious states in the U.S. People that take, just everything if you're contributing to employee benefits like in a 401k or other retirement funnels and things like that. This is all part of the equation. When you look at your total payroll, I am talking about every cent that goes towards your labor force. I am talking about paying Uncle Sam, paying into their retirement, paying commissions. Everything should not exceed 30% of net sales. So that means you sell $100, $30 of it is complete labor, where $20 of it was the people that were relating to the product sale.
Yep.
So that's the difference, is that you have a $10, or in this case, a 10% increase for all of the other fluff, for all of the other items, for all of the other people that you have on your staff. And what that essentially means is, let's put some real numbers behind this. If you're doing $3 million in revenue, your labor force should not exceed your total payroll, your labor, your hourly wages, your commission, your salaried employees, yourself should not exceed $900,000 if you're doing $3 million. If you're doing $1 million,
I think
your
that's
total
like
payroll.
an eye-opening thing when you sit down and stare at it, right?
Man, let me tell you something about this. When you're in the day-to-day grind of a sign shop, when you're in okay, so I'm talking about Jason from Idaho. Here we go. We're going back to you, Jason, from last episode. Jason, I don't know who you are. We've never met, but I'm sure that you're involved in your sign shop and you have employees that ask for raises, employees that are working overtime, perhaps. Um, you might be asking yourself, man, should I hire another salesperson? Should I hire another installer? Should I hire another fabricator, vinyl production specialist? Man, should I hire an inbound CSR? In every single one of my weekly coaching calls with my clients, these questions are being asked. And if they're not being asked of me or asked to me, they're being asked internally with that sign shop owner. And I think I'm just trying to create a new workflow. My designers should not be taking orders. No, they shouldn't. Does that mean you need to hire an order taker? Maybe, maybe not. But these questions are asked hundreds of millions of times around the country, multiple times a year. And my advice on all of this is use this sixth commandment as your measuring stick.
The North Star as the
Yeah, use this as your guiding light. You can look at last month's P&L statement, year-to-date revenue, and where you're at in payroll to determine if that answer is even possible. You know, if you have room in your budget because your total payroll is maybe sitting at 24%, you have 7% left in that budget, but with the expectation of, and this is where your comment comes in, Brian, is how much more revenue is this employee going to help us make by hiring this employee? So whether you have one employee or 100, the number of 30% doesn't change. Because in theory, if you hire another designer, that designer should be able to produce more output, which means more revenue, which means the revenue per employee is, which you brought up earlier, is aligned. Okay?
Sure.
If you're having a log jam and not being able to produce as much work in a week, in a works week, because you're always, clogged with larger jobs and it's hard to get smaller jobs across the finish line because there's no time, and you hire another production guy, okay, how much more production in a week can they produce? And that's where that formula makes sense, and I'm a huge believer in it. But you can't operate that way without knowing what the total number is in payroll, because if you're over 30% and you have these problems, which is very common, you may not actually have the right people. You may not have the right people in the right seats. You may not have them in the right role. That's basically what that means. And you may not be getting the most amount of output out of a high-performing employee. Maybe a $40 an hour employee is producing the same amount of work that a $25 an hour employee can produce. But he's been with you so long, you've given him raises because he's a nice guy. Well, the day and age of doing that is over, because you now have commandment number 6, which is your total payroll should not exceed 30% of net sales. Was that a did I leave anything out? I think we kind of hit on all of those points there, but
yeah,
I could be wrong.
I mean, to me, like this is a great metric. This is probably of the 10 commandments, this is probably right up there in my top 2 or 3.
Yeah, my absolute favorite is the advertising one, because I I go to bat with that all day long. But yeah, labor is number 2. It's probably number 2 for me for sure. Just talking about total payroll and not necessarily just direct labor, because it's so easy to look at total payroll and then say, okay, but how much of that is directly towards completing a project? And that's why that there's 2 KPIs here. That's why that there's 2 commandments that you want to really just look at individually. Because you might have a great designer and he's putting out great work, and he's on a salary, okay, and he's making those direct labor numbers, but maybe your total payroll number is off. Maybe it's higher than 30%, and that's an easy way of looking at this and saying it's not really related to my direct labor staff, because that's at or under 20%. So it might be coming from maybe you're taking too much money, or maybe your general manager is making too much money, or maybe there's something being spent more in the support labor side that shouldn't be, and maybe you can cut back and reallocate some dollars elsewhere.
Or we're not pricing high enough, or we're not advertising or making enough sales.
Yeah, that's the other side of that coin that really we just damn it for bringing it up, Bryant. Damn
That'll
it.
be the next mini series that we have to do.
Right. Because when you're looking at all of these commandments and you're saying 30% of net sales or 60% of net sales, whatever the KPI is, net what's the word? It's a variable.
Variable.
Okay? It's a variable. Meaning, did you sell that project for $1,000 or $1,200? Because if you have the same labor and the same cost of materials and the same marketing dollars, that percentage changes based off of what you sold that project for, right?
100%.
So the other way to look at all of these commandments so far is to also look at your pricing, which we're not here to discuss pricing, okay? We're here to discuss what are the KPIs of your business, of your profit and loss. Perhaps the way to fix it all is to raise your pricing. I'm not saying that it isn't, okay? Perhaps. I haven't looked at your profit and loss to know.
Which
right?
leads us into commandment
Okay.
number 7.
Good segue. Good segue. Love it. Your average invoice should equal or exceed $600. So we're kind of getting into a little bit of the pricing world here, right? If you start looking at how many orders you produced, and I got to say, this is still subjective here. So I want to say this with an asterisk. This is put together for a shop that also is a vinyl shop. Okay? So this is not we're not talking about an exclusively like a fab shop. Somebody that's like building channel letters all day long, or awnings, or vehicle wraps all day long. We're talking about
yeah, if you're at $600 there, you're hurting.
Correct. We're talking about your average run-of-the-mill shop that does both vinyl and a little bit of fab, and ultimately, you're not turning down DOT letters. You're not turning down those window graphics, the door graphics, or
the neighborhood sign shop.
Exactly. So we're really speaking to that type of shop. Your average invoice should equal or exceed your $600 mark. Now, what is an invoice? I have to start there because there seems to be some confusion.
What?
Yep.
You get it?
Yep. Yeah, because I'm not saying quote, I'm not saying order, I'm saying invoice. Okay? I didn't say your average quote, I didn't say your average order, I said your average invoice. That means done and paid. Done, completed, finito, complete, and paid.
Okay.
Okay? That's what an invoice is. Your average completed job should equal or exceed $600. So when you think about like a customer could walk in and buy a banner or a couple of A-frame signs, or maybe it's a real estate office that's buying some lawn signs.
Our shop minimum is $100.
Sure. The shop minimum's $100. Those types of conversations need to go outside the, toss that conversation out the window, okay? We need to focus on $600 or more in order to be profitable, okay? If our invoices, and Shopbox and Corebridge and every other basic POS system will tell you this, how many invoices have you done? What's the total? Make the simple division, and you have your total average invoice. Here's a very interesting point to that. I said it should equal or exceed $600. Most shops are exceeding $600. So I have to say that with a giant asterisk. If you're in this world of sign shops, you're kind of living in around the $700-800 world for your average invoice. So if you see your average invoice in the 500s, maybe in the 600s. You're still in a critical mode. You're still in an area of which it is important for you to increase that number.
Yeah.
The way to increase that number again, Brian, take a look at your pricing. Take a look at your material costs. Take a look at your markups. Take a look at your hourly rate. Make sure that you're charging the right amount, because if you are, and your hourly, which we'll get to here in just a minute, and your hourly rate should be what it is, most projects don't take 1 hour. Most projects take a couple of hours. So you should be seeing your average invoice go up.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
low-hanging fruit. Like
Yeah.
if you are concerned about raising the price, go watch. Forget the episode number. It's with Paul Gardner of Sign Enterprise. Dude came back after getting some good advice, doubled his pricing, did not see any measurable decrease in business. So I'm just gonna, we'll hang that there. We'll move on.
Now, earlier we talked about my favorite KPIs and advertising being 1, total payroll being number 2. This is like 2A.
2A.
Okay.
Okay.
This is like
All right.
2A.
All right. You want me to do that thing? Should I
Yeah,
do
go
it?
ahead, please. Yes, please. Okay. Let's talk about Sign Shop Commandment number 8. Lead conversion. Most people aren't even tracking this, so this might be like, what does that even mean? Lead conversion to a quote should equal or exceed 80%. Okay, let's start with square one here. If you are not documenting your leads, start doing it today.
They're in my inbox, Pete. What are you talking about?
If you are getting an email with the questions of how much, can you, will you, or I need, that is a lead, people. Okay? If you're getting a Facebook message, and some of you do that, some of you don't. I don't think I ever really did that. But if you're getting a phone call, if you're getting a walk-in customer, some of you get walk-in customers, some of you don't. If you're getting a walk-in customer, the moment they walk through your threshold, lead. This is a lead. You paid for that person to walk through your door in your rent expense, so you better be freaking reporting this information. An email from a customer, a repeat customer, it doesn't matter what it is. If you are not documenting this, start today. How do you document it? Well, it depends on what you want to do. If you are using Shopbox, take a look at the lead function. Add a lead. Simple. If you're using Corebridge, do the same.
Lead.
Yeah, do the same thing. If you're not using any of those and you're like one of those shops that are using like QuickBooks and spreadsheets and whatever, then you need some form of like intake form. You need to be able to quantify how many people asked you these how much can you, I need questions. Okay? Or statements, I guess. I need is a statement.
Throw it on a Trello board at the very least. Like whatever. Like find some way to like track this. I mean, obviously like there's CRM solutions that are like handle this, and that's like it for a different day. Obviously we've got like the shop spotlight series going on right now through the end of the year. God, it's like, yeah, I'm with you. Like if you're not tracking the incoming leads, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're just quick to say $100 for that banner. Like, no. Where is the consultative nature in this? Where is the outreach? Where's the emails? If you are not getting that name, email address, phone number loaded into some CRM, you are so far off from doing what you need to be doing. And I'm sorry to say it like that, but start today. Okay? You are not actually succeeding as an owner if you are not doing that. Now, many of you are. I'm not talking to those that are. Quantifying your leads is an incredibly valuable tool that you need to start doing as a business owner, as a sign shop business owner. So, let's just assume that you are. How many of those leads are turning into quotes? That's what that means. Lead conversion to a quote should equal or exceed 80%. So let me kind of back up here and just go, if a customer asks you a simple question,
Give me one. Rattle one off here, Brian. Let's role play here a little bit.
I need a birthday banner for my wife. She's turning 40.
Cool.
How much is that going to be?
Let's just assume that that's an email. We'll make it really, really simple here. Let's
Yep.
say you say, hey, you came highly recommended. I have what'd you say, mother's 40th birthday coming up?
No,
Grandmother's whatever.
my
What?
wife.
Your wife's 40th
grandmother's-
birthday.
My
I didn't
grandmother's
hear what you
40th
said.
birthday.
Yeah, that would be
Hey,
pretty
hey,
impossible.
come on. Okay, this is West Virginia, but come on. We have standards here, bro. Come on.
Okay, your wife's birthday coming up, and you need to. Okay, so I respond in that email and I say, absolutely, happy birthday to your wife. What size banner are you looking for? And what would you like it to say?
Then it goes dark.
Then it goes dark. Then you hear nothing but crickets. You send a follow-up email. Hey, Bryant, this is Peter again. Did you get my last email? I sent you a couple of questions, and I would need to know before I can give you a price.
Goes
Nothing.
dark.
Nothing.
Nothing.
That is a lead that did not make its way to a conversion. Okay.
To a quote conversion.
To a quote.
I think that's
To a
when
quote conversion.
When I first read this one, we'll talk about the other conversion metric down the pipe. But this is like, hey, lead comes in. Does this make it to a quote that we can then track?
Correct. So you would get somebody to ask you. You would think that Bryant's a great customer, but he might be like, I don't know what I wanted to say. I don't actually know how big, so I need time to actually think about that, measure my ceiling in my living room, whatever, and figure out a sign size. But at the end of the day, Bryant might also go on Vistaprint and order it himself, go to Staples and get it himself, or maybe, you know what? I actually just walked into a random sign shop and they were able to give me a price and I just pulled the trigger, So that could be a lost lead. So the goal here is to quote 80% or more of the leads that you get in. You want to have something trackable. You want to be able to say, here's your quote, and then be able to have something to follow up on, right? So 8 out of every 10 is what I'm trying to say is the minimum. If you're quoting 6 out of 10, you are screwed here. Okay? You're not doing yourself any good service. So 8 or better. I have shops that are going 10 for 10. 100%. Every lead is getting a quote.
Comes to the door, quote it. Nice. Yeah. That's the gold standard. And now, I think the questions that I have here, and I love that this is on here because to me, it could be indicative of a couple of problems that you've either got in your sales funnel or your communication or, just a lack of systems. But, lead conversion to quotes. This one, I don't know, if Shopbox is tracking this for you, or some of these other systems are tracking. Man, this is a good one. I lost my train of thought there for a second. So
it's all right. That's all right. We're gonna get to we're gonna get into the nitty gritty here in just a minute. But the goal here, track your leads to quotes conversion rate. Okay. If you're not doing anything like Shopbox, whatever, do a Google form. It's free. And Google will keep track of how many and how many you converted. Very simple stuff. 80% or better. Number 9. Getting there. We're getting there towards the finish line. So let me preface sign shop commandment number 9 here by saying this. Most of you are starting to figure out what this number is. You're not naive anymore. You're not green to it. You're not making up numbers out of nowhere anymore. We have talked a lot about this. We have done shop classes, mastermind classes on this. Every single one of my coaching clients starts by filling out this tool. You need to know what your hourly billable production rate is. And most of you are finally catching up.
All right.
So if there is a significant improvement in the industry that I have seen, is that there are a lot more of you that are understanding the importance of this and are starting to pick up the fact that this is actually a game of selling hours. We're not selling signs here, people. I know how silly that sounds because you are selling signs. But are you selling your signs profitably with the correct amount of hours? Are you selling?
What? Give it to me, dude. You're teasing me like.
Okay, so here it is. Your hourly billable production rate. Again, we preface this by saying what type of shop are we talking about here? Okay, so this is again your run-of-the-mill neighborhood sign shop, vinyl shop that does some fabrication, less than 2,000 square feet, around that number, half a dozen employees, whatever. Your billable production rate should meet or exceed 125 per hour. Yeah, some people might be looking at their hourly rate and saying, I'm charging 150. Good for you. I still don't know if it's right. We still don't know if it's accurate. You might be charging $100 an hour and you might be like, wow, okay, I need to just simply raise that to 125. No, just don't do that right away. Look at your real data. If you're not sure what your data is, ask me. Email me. I'll give you a hourly rate calculator and you could use it and figure out what your true to the penny hourly rate is. Because let me tell you something here. There's a lot of people out there with some fake ass formulas. Okay? Total hours divided by total employees. Boom, hourly rate. Wrong. Not even close. What is your billable production rate is the correct term. How many hours are you actually able to sell? Not every employee is working full-time here, guys. You guys know that. 40 hours a week is not what you're paying somebody 40 hours. They're not working 40 hours. Okay? So you have to take into account certain factors of downtime and things that you just simply cannot charge a customer for. Hourly billable production rate should meet or exceed 125 an hour. Now, I want to just take a minute on this. I won't go too long because I know we only have about 10 or 15 minutes left here. For those listeners out there that are really dialed into their hourly production rate, like they know what it is, I'm going to challenge you here because you should be fluctuating that rate based off of the capacity of your schedule. Okay? Let me explain what that means.
Okay. I see where you're going.
If you're at 120, let's just say you're a shop, you're at 125 an hour, and you're busy. Okay? Busy-ish means like I'm busy, everybody's working, I'm still taking orders, etc. How much rope do you have left before you're at maximum capacity? Meaning, how many more jobs can you take on before you got to say, I can't take any more? And I know that's an interesting problem to have because almost none of you out there are saying no. And if you're not saying no, man, start trying to say no. That's my biggest piece of advice here. Because not every job is worth taking. A vinyl job can disrupt a very large production channel editor job. A window perf sign that comes in off the street can disrupt your workflow. If you're not realizing that, get to realize that. To
a ton of shop owners that's the case. Like, hey, these little jobs are eating us up.
Yep. But there is a point where if you want to say yes, how are you saying yes? Okay, so let's just say you're at 80% capacity. But in order to really fill in the 10 or 15% more that you have on your rope, I'm raising that hourly rate. I'm raising that, I'm not keeping it at 125. I'm going to raise it because I'm going to be near danger zone on my production rate. I'm going to be tearing my hair out of my head. My team is going to be, at it on its wit's end. Yeah, crying wolf, whatever it is. And I need to charge more for that because I am needing to be profitable at least if I'm going to go into critical mode and overwork my staff.
Yeah, makes sense.
But there's an opposite side to that. And what if you're at 150 an hour or $200 an hour and you're slow and you have more on your plate? Your advertising budget is not converting leads the way it should. Well, now I'm going to drop my rate a bit. I'm not saying to a certain dollar amount, but within reason, to account for more capacity. So your hourly rate, this is where people get the hourly rates wrong. I'm so happy that we're catching up to this because we are talking about like real numbers now. We're no longer in the world of like my hourly rate's $65 an hour. Like that's just that was like 7 years ago. We're in the 125 now range. Inflation, cost of goods, the cost of living is increased. Rent is going up, wages have increased. You have to at this point. Your marketing dollars have gone up, cost of materials have gone up. You have to be in this area, 125 or more. But even those shop owners that are dead set in their like number, that they're confident that is accurate, are not looking at their hourly rate in this like floating scale way.
Well,
like, they're not looking at it from a week by week basis.
Yeah. I love that view because it's, when you think of it, like we talked about this in the pricing course, like we're not selling rubber ducks that are the same every single time. Like you estimate how much it's going to cost you in time and materials, right? So we have to know what to charge for that time. Now, that's not to say that, hey, we shouldn't be trying to always get more, even if it's the same job. Like it, obviously, clients have different values associated to maybe the same sign, but like this number is the basis for estimating, and your pricing is critical. But like having it flexible, even more critical.
Yeah. You have to look at your production schedule. Like if you're not having I love this term, by the way. I picked this up from my Canadian client. Your JSM meetings, your job status meetings. I love that. I've never heard of that before, but your production meetings or your JSM meetings, I love that.
JSM. Okay.
If you're not having those meetings where you could say like, okay, this is what we're working on this week, you probably need to start there where you can understand like, if I'm mapping this out on a schedule, like think about like bar owners, restaurant owners that are creating a shift schedule for their staff, right? They could see every time slot for every individual, who's working and who's working when. I mean, we've lived in that world forever. That's not going away. But when you're in the sign industry, you can look at your jobs in the same light. Like, this is what we're printing. This is when it's printing. This is when we're fabricating it. This is when time for sales.
Next available slot to do this job.
Right? You could visually see how much capacity you have. And if you say, wow, what is this guy working on Thursday? You have more capacity. You have additional capacity. So what does that mean? Okay, we know what our break-even number is on the hourly rate, so we can't go beneath that. But I'm going to lower some of that desired profit margin on that hourly rate to accommodate for additional capacity, to give some more aggressive, competitive pricing, to get more orders in that are still profitable, but to bring on additional work due to the capacity of our production schedule. So if you're not looking at your hourly rate in that way, you should. You should be. This was one of the reasons why I did like so many hourly rate calculations with Shopbox back in the day, because I was always like busy, super slow. What's the lowest that we can go down here?
Then you also give your sales reps autonomy there. It's like, hey, if we can knock the price off, if we can get this order committed and into production, because we've got we've got a free slot, we got 4 hours to fill on Tuesday, etc., whatever.
Yeah. It's part of my shop policy. I always had like a dry erase board, and I would always write in the top right corner of the dry erase board, like, this is this week's hourly rate. Like, it would go down $5, $10, $20, whatever it was. But it would always change. So people were conditioned to look at that hourly rate and always say like, okay, now I know kind of like how many hours to charge for at that rate, based off of where we are in the schedule and who has closed and who has sold something and been added to the production schedule or not. So a very interesting dynamic. If you're not looking at it that way, I'm not necessarily saying that you should or you have to, but just staying in the black and white world of, no, my hourly rate is $150 and leaving it alone is probably not such a good idea. Probably not such a good idea. And then finally here, guys, look, Side Shop Commandment number 10, finally here. We got to talk about your conversion rates, okay? Now, earlier we talked about lead to quote. This is the next one down that path. Quote to order. Quote to sales order. Okay. Conversion rate for quote conversion to sales order should equal or exceed 65%. What that actually means is this. You quoted 10 of them, 6.5 of them have said yes. That's
Why is
it.
this number so low, Pete? That's me
Why
playing
is the number so low?
That's me playing devil's advocate. For the listeners who can't see my face right now.
Well, I actually don't think that this has anything to do with the sign shop's behavior, okay? Pricing. I think this has everything to do with the buyer's mentality, okay? If you're a shop and when you send out a quote, I hate to tell you this, but you are not selling 100% of your quotes. If you are, call me. I want to be a partner.
Oh,
That's simple.
that's I'm going to disagree with you, man.
I want to invest in your business if you are quoting and selling 100% of your quotes. If you need an investor, you call me.
That's a symptom to me, my friend.
No,
If you are if you're selling 100%, like you send a quote, converts over at 100% rate, you're pricing too low. 100%.
I didn't know where the heck you were going with that. I'm like, wait a second here.
You are pricing too low, and that's why I love this number. It used to come up all the time because this was one of the ones that's on that Shevox dashboard and the dashboard of all the other like softwares and CRMs. You could see, okay, how many did we win out of this? What was the percentages?
Yeah, so let's back up a minute, okay?
Yep.
Let's back up a minute. Assuming that this is the first time that you've heard about all of these 10 sign shop commandments, most shops are not performing well in all of them. They have rooms for improvement to be made here. Maybe their average invoice is under $600, which is, to your point, why their conversion rate would be so high. But if their hourly billable production rate is at 125 or more, maybe there is something to that. But if it's not, and you're converting at a higher rate than 65, or if you're closer to 100, you are probably underpricing your jobs and you're not selling them at a profitable level, because if you are closing at 100%, why are you listening to this podcast? If you are making 30%, 40% profit and you're selling every job, why are you listening? Because you're not doing that. Because you're not close to doing that. So, the average shop will take 8 out of 10 leads and quote them. And then out of those 8, they are selling 65% of them, and it's due to in large amount of the buyer's behavior and the relationship that the buyer has with the company and the person that they're talking with. The reason why it's also 65% is to also account for those sign shops out there that are transactional with their pricing and not consultative with their pricing. If you are black and white, I have a client. I won't mention him by name, but I have a client who is extremely transactional. I mean, his biggest flaw in his sign shop is I don't have the mental capacity to be consultative or even bandwidth to be consultative, so it's just order taking. It's just nothing but order taking.
The door. Yeah.
Get it in, get it out, get it in as quickly as you can, and follow up with them on it later on. Like, can you price me for a 3-foot by 6-foot max metal sign installed on posts? Man, if you are not consultative with that, you're screwing yourself. But if you are in a world where it's like, sure, 3 by 6, enter it into my formula, single-sided, 2 wood posts, $750, and the customer says, yeah, that price is too high, you just lost the lead. You just lost the sale because you were not consultative. You didn't ask questions. You didn't develop the relationship.
100%.
Right. So you have to take into account a couple of factors here. 65% is because of transactional behavior of the sign shop owner, but it's also about a buyer potentially saying, okay, I got a price. Let me go shop that around. Let me go see if I could get a better price or validate the price that I was just given. So you're not selling yes to everything. And if you are, that's why I made that comment. If you are, I want to be your partner because assuming that you're doing all of these items, these 10 commandments correctly, and you're closing that much, man, you got yourself an operation that is cooking. I want to be a part of it.
Okay. All right.
And I want to be a part of it. But if you are not cooking in any of these particular KPIs, well, this is, look, I would also say this. I've bought sign shops in the past. I've built sign shops in the past. I've sold sign shops in the past. These are also the 10 things that I look for when evaluating a purchase or an acquisition. I'm looking at these particular 10 items and saying, how well is your shop performing? And if
a healthy shop,
if it's a healthy shop or not. Let me say it like this. When you're putting together a profit and loss statement, where does your eye go, Bryant? Like when you finally get it from your accountant, your bookkeeper, where do you go?
Straight to the bottom, baby.
How much money did I make?
Yep.
And honestly, you have to detrain yourself to do that. As a sign shop owner, I recently did a financial audit with one of my clients in Miami, Florida. And he was like, here's my year-to-date P&L spread, every month. He put it into my spreadsheet, and I'm like, bro, are you realizing that your shop is like performing a hell of a lot better than how you're presenting it right now? And he was like, how do you figure? I'm only profiting. I forget what the number was. It was like 9%. He was netting 9%. I'm like, your shop is actually netting 21%. And here's why I'm able to pinpoint all of these areas of which like inaccurate accounting or, if these are owner discretionary expenses that you're referring to here. And you start eliminating things and getting to the meat and potatoes of what these 10 KPIs are. Man, this guy's shop was like, dude, your shop's performing like at a 21% net profit margin. Your cost of goods percentage is slightly high, but you're on pace to be doing X amount of dollars, which if that happens in the end of the year, you're going to see this, get to that market level of, under, whatever it was, 17%, 16%, whatever his cost of goods were. Sure. So, you can look at a profit and loss very differently, but we are trained to look at it from a professional, an accountant, a bookkeeper, and think that it's the gospel, but it's not. I've taught you some things here on how to look at your numbers differently, pay closer attention to the percentages, and little tip: ask your bookkeeper, ask your accountant that when they do give you that profit and loss statement, to also add the column percentage of income, so that you can look at those percentages and not so much the dollar amount, okay? And do the manual calculations yourself, because if you're looking at this month by month, you're going to see this up and down, up and down. If you look at it once a year, you're already too late. You can't make any improvements. You can't make any. You can't do anything with the profit and loss. So look at it monthly. Pay close attention to these 10 sign shop commandments, because if you are, you're a healthy sign shop. If you're performing really well in all of these areas, you're a sign shop that has value. You're a sign shop that can be sellable. You're a sign shop that can be profitable. And you're probably a sign shop owner that's sitting on Tahiti somewhere, sipping some margaritas, thanking me for saying, yep, that's the validation that I was looking for. Now I can, gear myself towards getting on another margarita or going on another vacation. So I hope you've enjoyed the 10 sign shop commandments here. Whether you're aiming to increase profitability or achieve sustainable growth, these commandments, these laws, these KPIs, whatever you want to call them, they are essential rules for your sign shop's financial success. Boom, mic drop, Pete's out.
Pete's out.
What do you think?
Like it.
Cool.
If you liked this episode, make sure you hit subscribe to get all the latest episodes. And check out our website, bettersignshop.com. Get free resources and helpful tools on growing your shop. Thanks for listening.